You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast, exposing the struggles and celebrating the successes in the life of coaches who are action takers and creating authentic impact in today's world. Whether you're just starting out, expanding your reach, or exploding your impact, you're in the right place right now. Stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Now, here are your hosts of the Coach's Journey podcast.
What's up, coaches? Excited to see you for another podcast episode. I'm Dr. Sherry Llewellyn with our amazing black shirt co-host, Faisal and Son, and this is the Coach's Journey podcast. If you're a coach and you're on the journey of being a coach and becoming a better coach, this podcast is for you. So today we are going to talk about clarifying your core values as a coach. Now, chances are, as a coach, you probably have conversations all the time with your own clients about core values. But have you really thought about how that applies to your practice as a coach? And maybe you have, but maybe there's an opportunity for you to go deeper. So that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, I'm so excited for this conversation. Now, Faisal, we, the Coaching Mastery community, which is the sponsor and the community behind this podcast, we recently spent a lot of time, the leadership team, we spent a lot of time developing and consolidating what our core values are as an organization. So that's part of why this is on our mind so much, because once we got clarity on really what our community is about, and we start to communicate that, now we have an opportunity to start to attract the type of people that we want around us. And it occurred to me, this is the same kind of thing that we can continue to cultivate as a coach so that we're attracting the kind of clients that are attracted to our core values. What are your thoughts on that to start us off?
I think values are everything, because that's how I think values are how clients trust us, as long as your values match your clients. And it's actually a very powerful tool for your business, for marketing, because ideally what needs to happen is that your values need to attract the people who align with those values, and it needs to repel people who don't align with those values. And that's the power of being clear about your values as a coach, as a human being, as somebody, as a leader, is that you're consistently in your message and your stories and everything that you say and do, you're communicating that. And I'll give an example of that. So yesterday I had a sales call. So I had a discovery call with a gentleman I had worked with a while ago. I did one session with him. It was 4 years ago. And then I could tell that he was interested in having a conversation. We did, and he got a lot out of the session. And I didn't make an offer then. I just sent him a bunch of my testimonials. I told him to go through that to see whether or not you align with the kind of growth that my clients are getting. Then we booked a 30-minute call. So it was interesting. I had a feeling he will do that, but I wasn't sure. And that's part of the reason why I kind of gave him some time, because he brought up his wife quite a bit into our conversation. And so when we went into the 30-minute conversation yesterday, he actually pulled his wife in it too, because I think he wanted more help in the relationship, but also individually, and he wanted his wife to buy into that. And that was one of his pain points, that she wasn't going in that direction. So he just wanted me to connect with her, and he didn't tell her anything. So I literally had to kind of connect with her quickly there. And I think one of the things that really communicated the value of my program was, I didn't say, well, yeah, you can both join my program and this and that. That's not what I said. I'm like, so what have you heard about the coaching? And she's like, nothing. And it's like, why do you feel like it's important for you to kind of go in this direction that the client of mine wants to go? And he's like, well, this is the point where we need to take some action in our relationship and our own growth. Otherwise, it's going to be affecting the whole family. And I could tell that was a huge pain point for them. And it was real, because I already had a discussion with the husband. And I basically said, I can give you guys a package right now. And It might or might not work. But here are some reservations that I have. First of all, I don't know if you're fully bought into this. You don't know me, you just heard about me, and I'm sure your husband had a great session, but you just know from his perspective. I don't know if I can actually help you, and you don't know if I can actually help you. I would want to have that conversation with you if you want to go towards this. And then I talked a little bit about my values around this. And I told them that what matters to me is families, ultimately. And that's related to so many things, but the well-being of your one individual will make all the difference. The well-being of your kids, of yourselves, of your community, everything depends on how you guys interact with each other as a couple, and how you are with your kids, and what kind of values you're moving forward in your life, and what direction are you going. And to me, that's incredibly important. And a big reason for that is that I struggle quite a bit as a human being, and within my own family, with my siblings, with my parents, and they struggle. And I struggled within my own life with my wife. And we've had to work through a lot of that stuff, and we're still working through that. And to me, that's incredibly important, not just because I want to help with your family, but it's connected to who I am and my core, but also if we can do anything to make the world a better place, is have better families, better communities, better organizations, because that's what makes the biggest change. And as I'm sharing this, there you could see like their eyes are lighting up, because that's a breath of fresh air, because they're like, okay, somebody cares. And I will communicate that with whatever I do. I would rather communicate my why than here are the details of my program. Nobody cares about.
Yeah, that's a really great example. And I think, and I've certainly fallen into this where, I think about my values, and especially as a coach, I mean, I can say, I have a core value as a coach around making sure that every time I have an interaction with my client, they gain value. That's pretty vanilla. That's a pretty vanilla core value, because I'll bet you 9.9% or 9.9 out of 10 coaches are probably going to say, yeah, that's my core value. That's a core value. Always give value, always. But what is going to differentiate you? And I love your example, Faisal, because yours is you have this framework that the core, or the family structure, the family dynamics are the core of a growing society, a society that is moving in a direction of health. And so when you're working with a client, your favorite client, one that you really get excited with and can really do some deep work with, is probably also going to have that similar mindset of it's not just them, but they want to have a positive impact on their entire family. I know I've definitely worked with a lot of people over the years who come in for help, and they're very individual focused. They're like, I have this problem, I'm trying to get better. And they kind of resist conversations that have to do with their spouse or their kids or their parents or friends. They're just like, this is my issue, I need to fix me. But being able to work with people that have a similar value, that it's not just you're living embedded in a culture, embedded in a smaller microculture of a family, and all that sort of stuff is going to excite you as a coach more. And the more energy you have in working with somebody like that, the more energy you're going to put back into the coaching, and it just kind of snowballs in a good way. And so the question then is, what are, as a coach, for our listeners, what are some of those values that you have, those core values that you function from, the frameworks, the worldviews that you have, that if you shared them more would attract clients that would excite you more, and that you could actually help more deeply?
And I would say, and the reason why I always go back to the story is that your story will communicate your values very quickly. Because what you've gone through and what you've struggled with, and the things that you've done to deal with those struggles, will be your core values, will be your values. So, for example, so I was just at an event in Cancun, and I know the way to connect with people more than anything else is through stories, because I watched every speaker do that. Now, I didn't have the stage there, but we did have a mastermind component in there. And I wanted to share. I wanted to share just because I felt connected to everybody anyway. But like I've done quite a bit of work in the coaching world, and I wanted to share my struggles. And all I needed to share was, where did I come from? Like, how did I get through that stuff? And as soon as I do, and that's also emotional for me when I share it, because it's true to me, true to my path, because it's real for me, what I've gone through. And as I'm sharing it, like literally pretty much everybody in that place came to me and talked to me afterwards. And they're like, I really felt connected to your story. And they had these things, which I love. We're going to do this at our event. It's called Love Notes. And they have this, do I have it here? That's in my bag there. So they have this envelope. Now, what they do is when you go in there to the event, and they take a picture of you, a Polaroid picture, they put it on top of the envelope. Your name is beside it. And by the end of the event, everybody's just going to write something that they were inspired by or connected to you. And I have like, I think 50 or so notes in there. And all of them, I'd say 98% of them is, thank you for inspiring me with your story to some degree.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
My story is connected to my values. And if you're deeply connected to your story, you will consistently communicate your values anyway.
Yeah. So Faisal, what I would like to do is unpack a little bit the values around the Coaching Mastery community as a way of demonstrating story and how it relates and our experiences as it relates to developing those core value statements. And then, and just kind of use that as an opportunity for example. So the Coaching Mastery community, Faisal, do you want to kind of quickly share the origins of the Coaching Mastery community?
Yeah, and that connects to the story. So the origins of Coaching Mastery community was just a bunch of frustrated coaches. Nothing was working, and then Jeff Cockrell just sent a message. Who's one of our partners, sent a message in the Facebook group and the CHPC community. It's like, hey, we've been doing all this beta coaching, but do you guys want to try something different? And he had an idea around that, which I liked. It was brilliant, was to start a chain instead of doing it back and forth, coaching you coaching me, and I'm coaching you. Instead of that, we have a group of people. I'll be coaching you, you'd be coaching the next coach would be coaching me. Sort of something like that. And then we also got together to kind of deconstruct, like what happened, what worked, what didn't work. So we gave each other individual feedback, but we also got together once a week to discuss that, which is actually the core of what we do in CMC. To this day, it's there. It's one of the two of the main components is the mastermind discussions and the coaching chain. And as we started, so originally when we did that, it was actually a lot of fun because we were only going through CHPC framework, Certified High Performance Coaching Framework, and we were bringing each topic. For example, we're talking about, we did a session on clarity individually, and then we bring back that same session. We would discuss that. It's like, okay, what worked in that session? Where did you struggle with? And we got feedback. And as the more conversations that we had, the more, one of two things happened. One is like, oh, I really know what I'm doing in this specific area. Oh, yeah. I don't think I should be trying this other thing. and then that's really good. That person's coach is trying, let me give it a try. So we go back and try something else. And it was actually shocking for me because at the time, like I had tried so many different things. I'm like, oh, I'll try one more thing. It doesn't. But I was shocked after about a few months, 6 months or so, I'm consistently seeing now I'm reaching out to more clients. I'm connecting with more clients. I'm having more conversations and was translating into, and I never thought of just conversations without any kind of specific model that will help me get clients. But what it did was it helped me to build confidence in my own process. It helped me understand what other coaches are doing and their skill sets. And initially, we were only talking about coaching skills. Later on, we hesitantly went towards business because everybody is insecure about that area for some reason, including me. So as we started doing that, and I still remember last time, I think 2.5 years ago when we were in Phoenix, and I was walking with Jeff, there from our Airbnb. I think we were walking to the conference hall for certified high performance coaches, and he's like, I think like we got a lot out of it. And it's like we're just gonna like that should be good. We gave a lot of people value. We got a lot out of it, and I'm like, are you saying you want to stop this? He's like, yeah, I mean, it ran its course. It was good. I'm like, are you kidding? This is the most I've gotten from anything that we've done. He's like, oh, really? Tell me more. And then that translated to us. It's like, okay, what would it look like if we just invite more coaches? It's a volunteer thing we're doing. And we got the CHPC community involved. We talked with Michelle Holiev, Brendan's team. And it was, interestingly, it was Mama B, Brendan Burchard's mom, who kind of booked the restaurant. We didn't even know because we talked to so many people. She booked the restaurant for us. There were like 30 plus coaches that showed up. And everybody had the same challenges that they were struggling with. And the idea was very good, is that, hey, let's get together. Don't just see each other once a year or once a month. Let's be in consistent conversations and support each other to move ahead. And the whole idea came from building that community to support each other and give each other feedback from trying things, not just based on a model or a theory, but actually real life trying things.
Excellent. That is the origin story of how the Coaching Mastery community was birthed. And it was birthed out of a need, out of just, they were trying to solve a problem that the coaches were struggling with. And that's, how do I get better? How do I gain confidence? How do I gain confidence through competence, which happens through action and just all of these things. And so we have 7 core values that we have distilled with the Coaching Mastery community. And the first one, these aren't necessarily ranked. There's no like, this is the most important. They're 7 equally important. And one of them is the relentless pursuit of mastery. Mastery is a word that all of us that were part of the beginnings of this really felt very drawn to, because we wanted to become really good. We knew that the better we were, the more of an impact we could have. And so this idea of pursuing mastery relentlessly, always, not giving up, just continuing to grind, whatever that looked like, was a core value. And we have interacted with coaches over the last couple of years in our community who didn't have this core value. And as we went, because clarity comes comes in action, right? Like that's something I've heard people say a lot. You get more clarity about things as you take action. So it's okay to move forward, even if you're not 100% sure how it's all going to happen or what you're doing. So we realized in interacting with some coaches in our community that didn't demonstrate that they really cared a lot about continuing to pursue mastery. As a leadership team, we were hitting our head against the wall, being like, how can we help them? How can we help them? Until we realized, they have to want to be helped in order to be helped. So in your coaching journey, you're going to find, as you take action, even if you don't have 100% clarity, because clarity really is a constantly evolving thing, that as you take action, as you start to meet with clients and have different clients, you're going to realize there's some clients you're definitely drawn to. And if you understand what your core values are, you're going to start to see why you're drawn towards those clients, because there's going to be an alignment in some really important values. And then there's going to be other clients you're like, oh my gosh, I get done with that session and I'm like drained, or I'm irritated with them, or, there's going to be stuff that you recognize in yourself that's coming up. And that could be a signpost that there is a values misalignment. So just kind of be aware of that. Our second core value is very closely related. And that is that we embrace mastery as a journey, not a destination. So Faisal, I'm going to punt that one to you to talk a little bit more about.
Yeah. And it was just, as soon as you said that, I'm actually happily. So I've had one client in the past few years who I did not feel aligned with. And I took him on with this thing that he really needs help. And it wasn't even it was a group client, and I gave him just 1 or 2 one-on-one bonus sessions. And just the alignment and values weren't there. Even within the groups, I could tell he was shrinking. because he wasn't even aligned with the rest of my clients as much. And then he actually got some value out of the program, but I could tell he was in the wrong place. And I was very close to saying like, this might not work out, but he actually sent me an email saying that, hey, I'm thinking about taking a break. I'd love for you not to charge me. I know I already got charged a few days ago, but if you can stop the payments, I literally refunded the last one too. I'm like, that's okay. I completely understand. And I'm having a final conversation with him, just give him some feedback, and he had some feedback for me too. I'm actually looking forward to that conversation. This will be the end of clients' lack of values alignment because I've done that in the past. Good thing this was in a group setting, but I've done this one-on-one. It is a painful process because you're trying to help a client who's just not in that space with you. They're just, and it's like a constant pull and push, and it just feels painful. It doesn't work. So it kind of reminded me of that. But going back to mastery and looking at it as a journey, you can look at it in so many different ways, but looking at it primarily as in the coaching world, this is why it's so important to be connected to our story. I have a lot of realization from the Cancun event, the Ever Coach event. Something that Ajit said that was really powerful, Ajit Nawalka. He was talking about business. He was talking about bigger businesses. He was saying how you structure your pricing. And one of the things that he talked about is that initially when you're starting out, charge high, get high-end clients because you won't have a lot of volume. But as you develop volume, charge low. And then somebody raised the question, was like, well, there are companies who charge high when they develop volume. And he said something that I really connected with. He's like, well, they've lost sight of what their original mission was. And what he went back to is like one of the things they're trying to do in EverCoach and Mindvalley is that they're trying to make it accessible to a lot of coaches, certifications, and communities. And they're able to charge less now because they have a lot of volume. And he said that I could charge more, but then that would be very disconnected from my original mission when I started this whole thing. And that's connected to his values. And as soon as we lose sight of why we started something, why is it so deeply important to us, our story, then you can get so like once you get into the business, once you get over the pain side of the business and it becomes fun, this can just become a money-making machine. Like it will have no purpose other than the fact that you make money. And that's where it tends to go downhill. That's where you see businesses that are not really serving people. They just have built a trust and credibility and have a product that adds some level of value, but they're just working on momentum. And so I think going back to the why is mastery important? Well, why do coaches start? I can bet like 99 out of 100 coaches will be that, hey, they struggled with this part of their life. They were working through it themselves. They were having challenges with their relationships, with their life, with their business, with so many parts of their life that they had to go on this actually journey of mastery to learn more about themselves. And coaching became one aspect of that process. And it became a very powerful aspect of that. And this is why you're connecting with your clients. And as you're connecting with your clients, you almost always find out that your tools are not enough. What you know is actually not enough. The way you run the sessions is not enough. You constantly need to improve and get feedback and serve your clients better. And much of my growth has been just like being stuck in sessions. Like, I don't know which direction to take this in. It's like, maybe I need to learn a little bit more. Maybe I need to join this other conference. Maybe I need to take this back to the community, get feedback on this. That has helped me grow and being constantly on that learning journey, because like coming from the engineering world, for example, this is much more complex to me than that, because human beings are much more complex if you look at them from a machine standpoint. There's a lot. It's like you will be shocked. Like you'll be in a session like, oh, okay, I feel very confident. You're in the middle of it like, oh shit, I don't know which direction this is going. I need to learn a little bit more about this. So without mastery, you will not be able to create that higher impact. Yeah. And if you can't create impact, it'll be very hard for you to create more profit initially and sustain that profit, because you're not getting the referrals that you need. You're not building a following of clients who will support you consistently and get your message out there because
Yeah.
they've gotten the value.
Yeah.
And you will constantly be stuck. Like you will get a bunch of clients and then you will run out. You're like, what happened?
So, I think I love what you're saying, Faisal, and it goes back to, as a community, the coaching mastery community embraces mastery as a journey, but there are other coaching communities that don't function that way. They're giving people, the ABCs, the tactics to do a thing or to achieve a specific goal, and so then once they achieve that goal, they're done, which is fine. I think there's a time and place for that. And as a coach, you might have a specific system that, so for example, maybe you're a weight loss coach and, you provide a framework to help clients, maybe lose 20 pounds or 30 pounds or get to a certain kind of a goal weight or percentage body fat or whatever. And you're providing some coaching along with that, the specific framework. And so is that your program? Is that your goal? Is there kind of an endpoint at which your client will say, great, thanks, I'm done. I don't need you anymore. I accomplished the thing. And if you are, I think that's okay, because that's a certain model of coaching. But then there's other types of coaches who are like, no, I'm wanting to achieve and help my clients achieve like a high level of satisfaction in life and, be a high performer. Both Faisal and I come from that background. And we know that there is never a point where we're like, yep, I'm a high performer now. I'm done. I've learned everything I can learn. There's always more opportunity to get better. And so we embrace in mastery as a journey, as a core value. And so, what do you believe and how do you portray that to your clients? Now, Faisal was also talking about something that transitions very nicely into another one of our core values, and that is give to grow. And so in our community, we absolutely believe this idea that we gain a ton of growth professionally, personally, relationally, all of the ways when we give to other people. And so we've seen that, we see that all the time in our community. And you brought up a couple examples, Faisal, about demonstrations of that and what you experienced at your retreat in Cancun. And Ajit, did I get his name correct?
Ajit, yeah.
Okay.
Ajit.
That's clearly one of his, related to one of his core values as well, because as his business is growing, then he is able to give more and realizes that by giving more and creating that culture, there is going to be more growth, more widespread and impactful growth that happens.
Yeah. And he actually shared a part of his vision because he originally came from India and he is it's very interesting. Like he actually inspired me in so many ways because originally I bought his book, The Book of Coaching, and I'm promoting him right now without him asking. So there are reasons there, right? The Business Book of Coaching, great books, by the way, for any coaches. The Business Book of Coaching is only on PDF, self-published, but it's I actually liked it even better than the Book of Coaching. So when I first saw him in Mind Valley, it was in Europe this past summer. I just watched him on stage. And one of the limiting beliefs that I had, that as a brown Middle Eastern person, and I do have an accent, maybe not as much as he does, and I have this other background, and I don't know if I'll ever be successful. And then I watched him talk on video, and I'm like, okay, that's bullshit. But then when I saw him on that stage, yeah, he has a thick accent. He has a thick Indian accent, and to this day, he is running one of the biggest coaching platforms in the world, one of the biggest educational platforms in personal growth. That's in English. And that really, and he talks about it. He's very upfront about it. He's like, yeah, you can see that I have an accent. It doesn't bother me, and he's not doing anything about it. I mean, it's probably is. But then a couple of things that he mentioned in terms of his vision that was very interesting. So he didn't just like when he was talking about giving, he wasn't just saying that, oh, well, no, you need to build a business to charge more and do that stuff. He's like, ideally, because we're a bigger platform, what we want to do is we want to take coaching to places like India or anywhere where their resources are not as much as the Western world. And we don't want to charge in dollars. We want to charge in rupees there. Because it doesn't make sense for me to charge in dollar there because their currency is such a huge wide difference. And that's what holds some of these places back because they can't invest based on their income in programs like this. Unless they're really well off, they can. And there are people who do from there. Is like, my goal is to do something like that. As soon as he said that, that brought a lot of excitement for me connected to his brand. I'm like, oh shit, he's doing something really big and it's impacting a lot of people around the world, a lot of and it will bring everybody else together. Like that is a like like within those messages, we're constantly demonstrating our values when we're talking about our vision, our story, like what we're trying to do. And this is a part where coaches struggle a lot too. Like we're not open enough. Like one of the biggest fears I know coaches have, and many coaches there, even in the conference, will say is like, I don't know what it is, but I can't seem to talk about myself. I can't seem to talk about like what I'm trying to create. There's a big fear because it's so close to our heart.
Yeah. And that leads into another one of our values as a community, which literally has community in it. And it's, we grow faster in community. And what you were just saying, Faisal, as the listener is kind of hearing these stories, is we do have these fears and these beliefs, these values, maybe values isn't quite the right word, but beliefs that live in our brain, and we act on those and they hold us back, limiting belief, whatever like term you want to call it. But there are things that we're believing as truth, and so we're not acting. And the fastest way out of our own mind is when we're in community with other people and we can share what we're experiencing, share what we believe, share what's holding us back, and be able to get some objective perspectives that don't originate in our brain. Or maybe they're tucked down there, but they're tamped down because there's fears on top, and so we can't access them. So community, we believe in the Coaching Mastery community. We believe that community is an instrumental part of growth, because without it, we're left to our own murky waters. And when I say murky waters, there's this analogy that always comes to mind when I think about how we live in our own mind. And it actually ties to a little bit to what you said, Faisal, about engineering is almost easier than coaching. And often, correct me if I'm wrong, you're far more expert in this than me, but, in mechanical engineering, like you're typically working with a closed system. You've got all your parts and, and everything, how everything should interact with each other. But as humans, we're an open system, which means there's inputs, there's influences from all over the place that are often unpredictable. Well, in a way, that's more challenging, but there's also an opportunity for the system to be able to be corrected easier than if it's a closed system. And this is at least the way that I perceive things. And so when I think about living in my own mind, I think about that as like a pond of water that has no fresh source of water, which I think of as kind of like a little bit of the open system. And if you have a pond, we have ponds that exist in people's ranches and whatnot here where I live, and they get disgusting if there is no fresh water source, because they just fester, they get stinky, there's algae that grows, and they get a bunch of mosquitoes, and it's just gross. And then fish can't live in there. And so you constantly have to refresh it, the water source, so that the water doesn't get disgusting. That's kind of how I think about our brain, is that when we're just living in our own world, it gets infested. And it gets disgusting. But if we're able to feed it with fresh water that's encouraging, supportive, nourishing, nurturing, which all of those are, I think, descriptors of a really good community, then you are able to get out of that nastiness and be able to move towards having clarity in what you're doing and how you're thinking and how you're moving towards or forward in the world. So that's the analogy that my brain always goes.
I love that analogy, and that's actually exactly what happens. Like I literally talked to a coach from our community, like from one of the members who joined the community before, and it was Andrew, if you're watching, and he was sharing like we're the most engaged community that he's been a part of, and he's not even a pro member. He's already talked to 3 different members of the community, and they've helped him a lot. And ideal, and and I told him, like, it's just, I would encourage you to reach out to the rest of the members. We're all going to be the same way. Why? Because we're trying to build that culture. Absolutely. Within our communities to serve first. We're not asking you for anything. I didn't pitch anything. Like, I encourage you to join us when you're ready, but keep moving. I encourage you to move your business forward in this direction. I gave him some value add, some tips to go in the right direction, but ultimately you need to be in these conversations for you to get the full value. And even when he was sharing it, and I knew what he was doing because I've done it so many times and I've heard so many coaches do it. He like, when was the last time you had these conversations with other coaches? What have you been focused on? And you could tell that he has been focused on this 1 or 2 things that was not working, and his mind was just repeating thoughts around same thing. And I laughed. I'm like, you just don't have new information. So that pond is becoming it's festering. There's not any fresh input. Yeah. And fresh input can be really powerful because one insight can completely change the direction, let alone consistent insight for you to kind of take what you can use. Like, there's an unlimited amount of ideas, perspectives, ways that there's so many things that I can't use a lot of them actually when we're in conversation. But even if I can use a couple of the things that we learned, then that tends to show up in my business and completely changes the direction of how I do things in terms of my coaching or business. And that's the power of the community, is that, and by the way, you were talking about closed and open systems. Like, when you're looking at it, this is, Alan Watts talked about this, that there is an illusion that we have, like, as human beings, we walk around, we're not like trees where we're planted on the ground, but that's an illusion. Because what happens is, you take away the air, you're not going to be able to survive. You take away the plants, you're going to struggle. You take away the animals, the same problem. You take away any component of the environment you're in, you're going to struggle. Yeah. Because you're an interconnected piece of everything. You're not like in our experience, we feel like a single self, but just as a living, we're part of a bigger system. That's why it's so complex. We're part of a much bigger system, but specifically as human beings, and this is why I don't believe you can help an individual. There are limits to that. You need to be dealing with the whole organization or family to some degree, or at least you need to be pushing that client to get them to open up their family or organization to that different way of thinking. I would ideally want them to get involved in coaching to some degree, but even if we can't do that, we can challenge the client to go towards opening up the line of conversation. Because like you said, a lot of people are I just want to grow. That doesn't work. Human beings don't work alone. We work with it as part of a bigger system. We're a social species. Our mind doesn't work. Like, as a psychologist, you know that, like, our thinking doesn't even work alone. Our language is not something we invented as part of a community. It's part of a culture.
Yes.
So when you look at those things, like the power of community, a real community can make a big difference. And by real, I mean that it's a community that's working towards a specific vision, specific value sets, and they're consistently working towards that. Not just the name of the community, but what is their mission towards, what are they going towards? And in CMC, we do have a mission. We want to help coaches impact the world in a very powerful way. And we want to be able to bring more and more coaches who will be able to do that within our community.
Yeah. So as you're listening to this, you may not have a really strong value of community, and that's okay. I want to share a story about when I started coaching and was banging my head against the wall because I couldn't get some traction. And so at the beginning of my coaching journey, I certainly hadn't identified what are all my values as a coach and how am I going to portray those to clients. But of course, we all have values, whether we verbally and consciously recognize them or not. We have values. And as I was starting to coach, especially in the real estate space, which is what I do the most of, there's different kinds of investors in the real estate space. And I hadn't fully understood this until I got clarity through action. And I was launching, this was a couple of years ago now. My husband and I were both investors. We were launching a mastermind locally. It was actually, it was more than just a mastermind. It was a real estate investing association. For those of you that in the field, it's called a RIA for short. So we launched a RIA, and which meant that we had twice a month, we would have a meeting that was more content oriented, and then we'd have a meeting that was over lunchtime, and it was very much more of a social networking, just kind of a casual environment. And part of the mission of the RIA is to bring together investors to support each other. Well, for months and months and months, we had such a hard time getting people to show up consistently, getting buy-in, it was just like pulling teeth. And we were probably close to a year in when I was like, I don't understand what's going, like, I'm a failure, like I'm failing. What am I doing wrong? Well, when I examined it and talked to my marketing coach about it, so getting that external input is so important, I realized that I had a value of community that I was kind of putting out there, but I didn't really think through who I'm trying to attract. And I realized there was a disconnect between my mission as a coach and who I was trying to attract. Because a lot of who I was trying to attract, I won't get into details, but culturally in our local environment, there's very much a private, individual kind of perspective, and as well as in the field of real estate investing, there's certain types of investors that are extremely community oriented, which I had really not been introduced to yet. And then there are some that are able to work, successfully have their entire investment career just by themselves, really not having to do a lot of collaboration. And that's actually who I was targeting. I didn't realize it, but there was an absolute misfit. And so I spent so much time and energy trying to cultivate this thing to happen. And it didn't, because I was marketing to the wrong people, the wrong message to the wrong people. Well, it's right message to the wrong people. But if I wanted those people, I should have changed my message. And so I share this as an example that as a coach, the more that you can get clarity around the kinds of people that you're trying to attract based on the kinds of experiences that you're wanting to help facilitate, that will really help you feel or have a different perspective that you're maybe not the problem. It's not that you didn't post quite enough videos or have enough engagement on Facebook or Twitter, or you didn't have the right dance on TikTok or whatever. It may not be that. It may be there's this misfit between who you're pursuing and the message you're giving, because you're not as clear on the values that you're offering through what you do. So I hope there's some points of connection that you guys as listeners are able to make with that.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful. And I think it comes down to what are we actually talking about? And this is very interesting because we live especially when you're in Canada and US, or at least parts of US, there's a huge political movement going on around like limiting how you talk, what you can share, what you can talk about. And I can't tell you how many clients have, especially in that initial session, when I asked them go towards courage, and I asked them like, where are the areas you're not showing up? He's like, I'm not speaking my mind. Why not? It's like, I feel like it's going to be politically taken the wrong way. It's going to be politically incorrect, even though they don't believe in that. Yeah. But they're scared that they will be judged, or they'll be ridiculed, or they'll be shunned from whatever circle they're a part of. And nobody's immune to it. It's like, and they could be very courageous in every part of their life, but they will struggle in that part because it's such a big force that's happening. It's like, no, we need to be careful about what you say here, there, and the other. And I'm not talking about the political side of it, just looking at it from a basic human self-expression point of view, is that if I come from a world, and this is very interesting for me because a lot of people don't see the value of it here in the Western world because they grew up with it. Like you take it something you grew up with for granted. But for example, like a lot, when you go to the Eastern world, the systems are not set up like that. You can't actually speak up against anybody. Like, it's very hard if you speak up against a specific politician or a public figure or somebody, you will be prosecuted legally or illegally. There are no boundaries there because they have a lot of influence. There are no legal things preventing them from doing anything to you. So most people don't talk. In fact, actually, if you go to the Middle Eastern, I've heard this from so many of my friends who are part of that world, is that one of the first things that, for example, dictators would do is that as soon as they go into power, one of the first things that they limit is public gatherings. Like coffee shops become illegal. Now think about it. This sounds ridiculous here, but coffee shops are where dialogues happen, where people talk about things that matter to them, and ultimately goes back to the bigger systems of government and what's happening in the world. They didn't want that to happen. Now it's the same things that are happening in the world on this side of the world, except it's being done through like perfectly through value systems. Is that no, we shouldn't speak up because it's going to hurt another person. And obviously, as a coach, I'm incredibly empathetic. I don't want people to be hurt. But in the meantime, like that expression of who you are and what matters to you, we need to consistently have a dialogue around it. And as soon as you limit that dialogue, then you can't move ahead. And it's the same thing will show up in your coaching sessions. So it'll be very interesting. Coaches who buy into a belief that they can't ask certain things because that might be hurtful to somebody, they won't ask direct questions.
Yeah.
They'll beat around the bush. And the reason why I'm sharing this, not for a political reason, but for you to that the systems we live in, they have an impact on us. Our family has an impact. Our governments have an impact. When we hear things over and over, they have an impact. We might not realize it, but all these things have an impact. And being aware of like how you're showing up and what you're expressing matters. And so you need to make your own decision. When you're out on social media, are you speaking your heart? Are you speaking your mind? Or you are limiting that based on what you're told you can talk about or what you can't talk about? And I can bet the things that you're holding behind are your core values, and you're afraid that somebody will react to that negatively. In fact, that might be a really good marketing strategy if somebody reacts to that.
Absolutely. So the last three core values that we have as a community, as you've been listening to us talk and our story in the community today, you're going to recognize and pick up on some of these things, which goes back to the importance as a coach of you sharing stories. It doesn't matter what the stories. It could be stories generally of some client struggles. Obviously, be super careful that you change any of the important aspects so that the client may not happen to listen and be like, oh my gosh, they just shared my life story. They just betrayed me and my confidence. Like, you be super careful in that. But one of our core values is always be coached. And you can see that because we have a coaching circle. Like, we're always getting coached. So we have a value around coaching, because wouldn't we be hypocritical if we said and advertised as coaches, coaching is a game changer, is a life changer. It will level you up. It will, help you be your best you and help you have the most influence in the world. But then if we were asked, oh, so you're being coached then, right? And we said, no, not really. Like, that would be hypocritical. There would be a break in our integrity of what we say and what we're doing. And so always be coached is part of our core values. And you would have picked up on that based on our story. So as you're sharing stories about yourself and your life and your values, your potential clients and your current clients are also going to pick up on those things. The last two values are delivering high value, which I already said is kind of vanilla. So it's embedded in all of these other things. But we, as a coaching mastery community, we are committed to delivering high value coupled with getting highly paid. And so I think that's something that if you're in our community, you recognize, because getting highly paid doesn't happen by accident. There's some thoughtful business structures and decisions that happen in order for getting highly paid to happen, which is why we have a whole section in our community, a whole learning track on business mastery, in addition to coaching mastery. And so that is in full context, kind of what we've broken down as our community, as our core values. And so the question I'm passing off to you as a listener, as a coach, what are your core values? And if you don't have them clearly identified that you can just rattle off for somebody, this may be a great opportunity for you to take 5 minutes or an hour, depending on, and starting to jot them down, and don't censor yourself. You know, this is the kind of thing that as a coach, you probably say these same things to your client. It's a great opportunity to just let things free flow. What do you value? What would you want to see your clients value? What do you think is going to be helpful in order to build the synergy and growth and movement in your clients and in your coaching business that can help on both sides?
Can I just go into that area of not being coached, because it has repercussions, and I've actually seen that in very big influencers.
Yeah,
one specifically. I won't share the name, and I have to be careful on how I, because it could be pinpointed very fast. But this coach who actually coaches other coaches, and this coach creates programs for other coaches too. And we've been part of this coaches out. I don't even want to go to her. It's a she. I don't even know how to say it. She creates whole programs. But and my wife and I, we were kind of in this trip, we were talking about like, who do we feel aligned with? Like, for example, Ajit Nawalka, we felt very aligned because he was like walking the talk. Like we interacted with him in social conditions and his events, and we talked with him one-on-one with him and his wife. You could tell that there's a deeper level of congruence. Yeah. And we've also talked with this other coach who's a big trainer, influencer, and so many things. And one of the things that she always says is that, and she has this thing that it's cringing, to be honest, is that she will tell the coaches that she will train is that, you guys need to get coaches, but I coach myself. Like I've done all this work, I coach myself. And it's actually very clear to the people listening that she has done a horrible job of coaching herself in some areas, but it's not clear to her. And some people who are new, they take it as, oh, she's put her on a pedestal. She's different. And that happens a lot. And when you look at like, they'll put somebody on a pedestal, they're not the same type of human being as they are. Yeah. Which is complete bullshit. And what ends up happening, and we actually hired this person as a coach for us. And I'm experienced enough to kind of assess how this coach does. She's an incredible trainer. She's a horrible coach. It wasn't working. And I paid more than what I would charge. And both my wife and I, we regretted it. We actually found one of her students. She did a better job. She did a much better job than her because her heart was more in it. And I think the whole thing goes back to like what kind of value system she thinks that she is better than others. She thinks that she has a unique gift that others don't have, and and you can clearly just in her conversations and her talks, you can see that she's missing the point here. She has a blind spot that she's on, and I can tell you, all she has to do is hire a coach. And she'll be able to figure that out within a few sessions that she's missing. And she's struggling in her business in those areas, even though her credibility built her business. But over time, it starts to go down. Yeah. Over time, it starts to go down because you lost sight of what was important. And what you're communicating is not aligned with what you're trying to teach. And you're not modeling that. So that's much later on. It's an extreme example. But like in our day-to-day life as coaches, we know that we all have blind spots. If you've lost sight of getting support to some degree, then that's going to be a problem for you, because it doesn't matter how much you know, how much you've studied. There will be areas, I can't tell you how many times I've been shocked. I'm in a session, I'm like, oh shit. I would not have figured this out for the next 5 years. Yeah. And it took one conversation.
Great example. Thank you for sharing that. So the takeaway for you as a coach is through action, you get clarity. And let's get clear on what our values, our core values are around our coaching businesses so that we can act with the most integrity and intention in our coaching business, in our personal life, in our relationships. Because, kind of what I'm hearing Faisal say is that you are you, and you have all these roles as a coach, as a mentor, as a consultant, but you're also having roles as a parent, as a spouse, as an adult child, all of these things. And so you are you, and you are you in all these roles. So you can't really separate out, well, I'm this way as a professional, and I'm this way when I'm off screen or off camera, or, I'm not a coach, because you kind of always are the same person. Get clear on what your value system is and how you want that applied to your coaching, and how you want that to come out through your coaching, and how you want to market your coaching as it relates to those core values. Because the more clear you get, the better you're going to be able to start to filter through clients and also attract the clients that are going to get the most value out of working with you, because they're going to love what you stand for. You're going to have a level of credibility and esteem with them already, just because you hold true to these values that you hold true to. Some people are going to not appreciate your values or agree with them, and that's okay. You're not necessarily here to serve everybody. You're here to serve some people. So let's help you find who those people are so that you can have the most impact with them.
Yeah, and the more clear you get about those values, the more you will know who to focus on. And this is where marketing becomes just a way of you doing things, is that you focus on and the whole point of niche building and all that stuff is to make your work more focused. Is that, hey, I'm gonna focus on in these set of people who care about these kind of things and who care about moving these kind of things. And the more you communicate that, the more you're going to attract those kind of people in your life, whether they're team members or clients or whoever that's part of your life. And that takes courage. Like, more than anything else, that takes clarity and courage. And those are very powerful elements of what you're going to do as a coach, as a leader, as an influencer. So keep that in mind, and please share your thoughts with us about your core values and how do you communicate that to your clients or potential clients to kind of create that connection with them and support them and serve them to move forward in whatever direction you are trying to serve.
Absolutely.
Share that with us, and make sure you share this with other coaches who I bet are waiting to listen to something like this, because a lot of coaches struggle with this there.
And if you were listening to us talk about the value of community and having a coach and being coached, this might be, if you were excited by that and you were like, yeah, totally agree with that. Well, then the Coaching Mastery community might actually be the community for you, because you can fulfill and have integrity in your own values within our community and the values that we have. We'd be delighted to have a conversation with you. There's a couple ways that you can get involved in our community. The first and easiest way is to join our Facebook group. It's free, it's easy. There's an opportunity for you to share your own story via video or a post. What are you struggling with? You can get feedback from other people in our group. The second way is, if you want even more specific, dedicated time, support, and help, then you can become a pro member. So there is a cost to that. There's a whole bunch of things that get unlocked for you in that, including being part of the coaching chain and being able to be coached. And if that's something that you're interested in, go to Coaching Mastery Community and click join the community or interested in the community. I can't remember exactly what it says, but it'll take you through just a short little process to answer a few questions and then get on the calendar of one of our leadership. It might be Faisal, it might be myself, it might be one of our other couple leaders who are amazing coaches. And we'll have a conversation with you and be real, be honest. Because if if you don't fit our community, if your values aren't aligned with ours, and that's okay. We may not think that we're the best fit for you. Just like you might have a conversation with a potential client and find out, they're maybe not the right fit for you. That's okay. we're not the right fit for everybody. Everybody's not the right fit for us. Same thing with clients, but we would love an opportunity to have a conversation to help you discover if that is or isn't the case. So coachingmasterycommunity.com is where you can get all the details. Thank you so much for watching. We absolutely appreciate all of our listeners. And we're here to serve. We're here to provide some actionable and thoughtful information to help you develop yourself as a coach and to move your business forward with more impact in the world.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Bye.
See you next time.
Bye.
You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast.